This is the Hype Squad with Charli McConnell, a podcast where women can be full of themselves and brag about what they're good at. Each week, we're going to bring you conversations covering topics like motherhood, life, relationships, business, and everything in between, because anything is possible with your very own Hype Squad. What's up, ladies? Welcome back to the Hype Squad. I'm Charli McConnell, your host. Today, we have Morgan Symons. So Morgan is my friend and my neighbor. And we have talked about you coming on to record an episode, I don't know, for months probably since I first started doing this.
Yeah, it's been a dream of mine.
It's on your bucket list, right?
It is. Like,
we're checking
number
off
one, I think. Yes.
checking off bucket list items. I love it. And we talked about it a couple of times, like, what are we going to talk about? And then over time, it was grief is a huge topic that we can talk about. Having only children and being content, like one and done families, is a huge topic I want to talk about. And then also, you're a military spouse. Your husband, Matt, has been in the military for how long?
Yeah, 10 years when we separated from the military, not from each other. So we made it. Yay. But yeah, 10 years. So and then an additional 4 for ROTC. So 14 years total. So.
And he was deployed. You guys lived in Germany.
Yes, we've done all the basic military family things. Yeah, so we lived in Germany just shy of 3 years. And we were like early 20s, so it was epic. We got to do all the fun things that, I mean, it shouldn't even be illegal. Yeah, it should not be legal for 22-year-olds to be running around Europe with like jobs, but we were doing it. So
I love that. Also, you have the best ideas for Oktoberfest. We just had Oktoberfest for our neighborhood, and I'm like, Morgan, what did the Germans do? I need all the details. Okay, so let's start there. We were talking before we started recording, like how to get into the grief and how it would feel most comfortable talking about it. And you said it started when he was deployed.
Yeah.
So let's just start there. Like start however you want about living in Germany and being a military spouse, and then we'll just get into the grief as it comes up.
Okay, sounds good. So I met Matthew in college. We met here at Auburn, War Eagle, and we met our sophomore years. So we were very young. And Matthew was in the ROTC program here, the Army ROTC program. I grew up as a military kid. My mom was in the Air Force for 32 years. So that's another spot that's kind of different, right? Most people think of military families and the dad's military, but for me, it was my mom. So did that. I did live in one place, though, because my mom was in the Air National Guard. So she was what they call an active guardsman. So she was not active duty in the sense that we were being moved a lot, but she worked every single day, deployed constantly. She was deployed for like 7 of my birthdays in a row because 9/11 happened, everybody went active, and it was kind of wild. So needless to say, I kind of came into adulthood thinking there is no way I'm going to marry a military person. Like I can't.
I'm done with this life. Yeah.
Yeah. I'll never do this again. And then lo and behold, that's life, right? Like you end up with somebody who you didn't expect to be with. So needless to say, that's how it got started. We moved to Columbus, Georgia, right out of college, for him to do one of his courses and then straight to Germany. So we lived in Germany from 2014 till the very late stage of 2016.
Mm-hmm.
We were there for the World Cup, which was awesome because growing up in Alabama, soccer is not a thing. Yeah. So that was cool. He was gone a lot when we lived there, like a ton.
Mm-hmm.
I think like out of 36 months, we at one point found that he was gone for like 24 of them. So I traveled with spouses, like other women my age, no kids. We all were just living the dream out there. So traveled a lot. It's crazy to talk about it in such a short span because it's such a huge part of my life. But, you get to, I joke all the time that little girls from Alabama don't toss pennies into the Trevi fountain, but I did, and it was cool. Did all that. Came back to the States. We kind of moved. We lived in Savannah, Georgia. We've been in Columbus, Georgia 3 times. But the very last time is kind of where everything, pops off, to use the language of the kids these days. We were living at the time in Savannah, and my dad had been hospitalized with what we now know was COVID, but at the time, nobody knew what it was, right? It was on ARDS, so like a respiratory disease. They couldn't figure out what it was. They had done testing, and it had come back that it definitely was something, but they couldn't label it at the time. So my dad spent like 40-something days vented in UAB her at UAB. So that was crazy. But he survived, right? Like he pulls through somehow. He makes it. And now looking back on people who've passed from severe COVID, I have no idea how he made it, right? Like he shouldn't have, but he did. And he got out shortly after Merritt, my daughter's. See, that was her second birthday, I guess. Yeah, it was her second birthday. So that year, he was kind of making up for all the things that he had missed, right? And so it comes along. Matthew at the time was deployed shortly after dad gets out of the hospital. It's supposed to be like a 3-month-ish thing. It gets extended because, soldiers can't leave, soldiers can't come, soldiers can't do all of these things. So, and I know if you have any milspouse listeners right now, they're all cringing because everybody remembers that time where nobody knew anything. But he leaves and I sell our house. I build a new house. I move from one house to another house. I get us set up and he comes home. All right. So he's got a 2-week quarantine on the backside. He quarantines for the 2 weeks. He comes, he helps me unpack. I think he was home for 11 days, back into quarantine for 2 weeks, deployed again. Right. So he's gone. And my dad made it through Christmas. He made it to Merritt's birthday, hospital the very next day. And he never came out. And it was kind of ironic because we always said, like he said he would make up for everything that he missed, and he made it to the exact time. So in the Army, you have something called a Red Cross message. So we sent one to Matthew and they put him on a plane and they send him back. And he made it back, but he had been in a level, I can't remember, they categorized the countries as like level 1 through 4, maybe, or 5 for COVID risk. Yeah. And because of all of this, dad was in a hospital where he could only have one visitor every 24 hours. And with Matthew being exposed from such a high country, Matt was in Colombia at the time. We couldn't go to the hospital until Matt had, and that was back when like nobody really knew anything, right? Like the testing wasn't exact. We were spending days and days and days.
So scared.
Yeah. And nobody really knew, like, is this cough COVID, or is it just because something tickled my throat? We were all so scared. So we couldn't make it. And I have a lot of regrets about not getting in there and seeing him. But in my head, I was like, he's pulled through. He's going to be okay, and he wasn't. I mean, I still vividly remember the phone call. I remember losing all the breath inside my body and what felt like all the air in the world, in that moment. And I don't know how Matthew knew, but he came running. I can only assume I probably sounded like some like dying animal or something across the house, but he comes running and he just knew. And that was rough. Like, I think anybody who lost somebody during COVID probably has a ton of regrets because we didn't really know how to handle it. And you don't know, are you making the right decision? Are you not? What if I exposed him and he got more sick? Or what if, there's just all of these questions, and grief is already hard. But when you have doubts or when you have regrets or whatever, it makes it even more difficult. And I know for you, losing your father, you were much younger than I was.
I was a kid. Yeah. Yeah. It was very different. And we've talked about this before, and it's not a funny thing. I heard a comedian somewhere say like the Dead Dads Club, and it's not funny, but it's like a kinship, when you've lost a parent. It's a very different feeling. And I'll say this as a side note. Colby and I watched a movie this weekend. This might make me emotional because I'm still emotional from this movie. I think it was Serenity was the name of it. It was Matthew McConaughey and Anne Hathaway. And like the trailer for the movie is like some murder mystery, psychological thriller. And spoiler alert, like I'm totally going to spoil this movie for anyone who hasn't listened. But the premise of it is the entire movie is a game that this little boy has created on his computer because his dad died. And he recreates this game with his dad in it, and he's playing with his dad. And his dad died when he was a baby, or his mom was pregnant, or something like that. And it did not unfold until like, I mean, I'm pure getting hives talking about it. I can feel my neck burning. It did not unfold until like the last 10 minutes of the movie. And I was an absolute wreck. Now, I cry at all kinds of shit. Like, this is not atypical for me. But I did not snap out of it quickly. And Colby's like, what is going on? And I'm like, you don't understand. Like,
Mm-hmm.
I was a kid when my dad died. I made up so many stories in my head about him and created all of these fantasy worlds about knowing him and having a relationship with him. I get it. Like, I've never seen anything like capture that feeling quite like that. And like this little boy would continue going to this game to like have this relationship with his dad. I say all that to say it is very different to lose someone when you know them. I'm not going to take away from any side of the spectrum whatsoever, but for me, regret wasn't really a thing. I
Mm-hmm.
didn't know any different. I didn't really have any memories. It was just kind of like, what would it have been like? Right.
Mm-hmm.
Um, so it's very different for me. I was 3 when my dad died. Like, I don't think I have real tangible memories of him. I think that I do, but I will then figure out that it was like a photo that I saw and I created. Like, your imagination runs wild with stuff like that. So very different.
Mm-hmm.
But he also was in the hospital and very, very sick when he died. And I remember um, he was at Shands in Gainesville, and we lived in North Florida. And so I definitely wasn't down there for that. And like, I didn't get to go to his funeral because my mom was like, it's not appropriate for a 3-year-old. Like, how do I explain this? So little things like that, like how would I have handled it if it happened to me? But I also have this weird trauma response that I think everyone's gonna die.
Oh,
Like,
absolutely.
everyone's gonna die and leave me. Colby especially, like, it's something I like struggle because that's all I knew was that your
Mm-hmm.
husband dies and leaves you. Like, that was my childhood, right?
Mm-hmm.
It's such a bizarre thing to like deal with in real time
Yeah,
of
but you're not wrong. I mean, everybody does
oh,
eventually die,
hundred
right? So, like,
percent.
I think that, yeah, I get that. I spend so much time in this state of waiting on the other shoe to drop
Mhm.
because the worst has happened to me,
Mhm.
in my mind. And I, like you said, not trying to discount anybody else's experiences,
Sure.
right? Because we all have to sit with whatever we're sitting in, right?
Mhm.
But I lost, yeah, like losing my dad. It doesn't matter if you're 3, if you're 16, if
Mhm.
I was 29, right?
Mm.
And I mean, how lucky am I to have him for 29
Mhm.
years? But that doesn't mean I didn't want him for an extra 29.
Mhm.
And my little brother was 18 or 9. He was 19. Or
Mm.
no, he turned 19 right after my dad passed, right? And that's his dad. I mean, that is a
Mhm.
young man waiting on everything that's supposed to come from that father son,
Not done growing.
yeah,
Yeah.
not
Yeah.
done growing. They had sports that they love to do together. And it's, we talked about this before we started recording, like that space where you have to be supportive for others around you too, because you're not the only one who lost somebody.
Mhm.
And I hate the term stepmom, but in theory, right, you wouldn't understand who I was talking about if I don't say.
Sure.
So my stepmother, um, and my dad got married when I was like 7. They've
Mm.
been together as long as I can remember, right? And so she's a huge part of my life. And my brother is my half brother through
Mhm.
her and my father. And then I had a stepbrother as well. And what was so crazy was it was almost like kismet because his name was Will. And I speak about him in past tense because he passed 9 months after my dad. So, Will and I had grown up together. We went to summer camps together. We had known each other since we were children. There are
Mhm.
pictures of us together before our parents were even together. So
Wow.
it was like fate had brought us together as a family, and carrying that as being the oldest sibling, um, being the only girl, being my dad's firstborn.
Mhm.
It was rough, and
You
I
can't break. You can't fall
no,
apart. Yeah.
no, you can't, right? And I think back to like on my behavior, his first hospitalization, like I probably looked like a brat, but I threw not a tantrum, but I was very direct in my concerns and saying, your hospital is not equipped to handle this. You need to get him transferred ASAP, right? Because when we went to the hospital, he wasn't at the top notch facility. We didn't know what was wrong, right? So from the very beginning, I had been an advocate for him, and not because others weren't willing to do it, but they physically couldn't. My little brother was so young and didn't know how to process his feelings. My stepmom had been so strong for so long, but when you're watching your spouse, the person who you've chosen, this isn't the person who you've been forced to, this is the person you've chosen to be with, right? Go through all of these things. Like, I just kind of was like, look, I got it. You just be there for dad. I'll handle it. So when everything gets towards the end and you're looking back on how you've processed everything and you're realizing, like, did I grieve this like as his child? Or did I grieve this as a caretaker, or, whatever position you want to call that? But
I mean, advocate, I think is a really strong term. And we talked about your bio before this, and you said you were Enneagram 6. I don't know exactly what that is other than the empath part that you brought up,
yeah.
but I would venture to say that part of that, like, trauma response maybe of just like, let me go in and handle shit, might be part of that, like, personality profile. Because I hear you telling this story and I immediately think of a girlfriend of mine, Meg, who's the same way. And it's like, let me go into autopilot and let me fix this, because I can't be vulnerable right now, because if I break, I don't know if I can put myself back together.
Yeah.
And I hear you giving the reference of like the spouse, of like how difficult that must be. And even hearing you say that, I'm thinking, yeah, but he was your dad.
Yeah.
Like, I get the spouse thing is super difficult, but in my mind, I go to a place where I'm like, the spouse would be the person that would be the advocate. Like, that's where my mind automatically goes to, right? And not saying that your thought process was different, but real life dropping stuff. Not saying that your process was wrong, but just giving the alternate view of that, because I'm like, oh no, but you're his little girl, right? So just kind of like mirroring. I get where you are coming from, but also it feels like one of those things where I can do this. I know how to do this. Let me be useful in the advocate role. Does that feel?
Oh, absolutely. Yeah, absolutely. I'm a fixer.
Yeah.
That's my thing. Like, I was trying to explain to you about Enneagram 6. Like, the Enneagrams are so interesting, and I think that you would be interested in them because
I
of
know
your
mine.
love.
I just don't know all the other ones.
Oh, okay. Well,
I'm a 3.
so that's typical. A 3 would know the others. Anyways, yeah, I'm a 6, so I'm loyal. Basically, I'm loyal, like, to a fault. I think that is something I've learned about myself. Like, I always give every single person the benefit of the doubt. I'm always devil's advocate. I try to, see things from other people's point of view, which makes me an empath. I am an empath to the point where I will get physically sick worrying about others. Which, if I was to tell my friends, like, I will tell my friends, why? Like, move on. But I live it. That's just me. So I think that in that moment, or in those moments, because it was such a long stretch of time, I just wanted her to be able to be there for dad. When dad's awake, I want you there. When he's, because I'm his kid, but that's the love of his life. That's who he sees in the morning when he wakes up, and who the last person he talks to at night. And I had been gone since I was 17, like, yeah, I'll always be his first, his daughter and all the things. But I think that maybe being a spouse helped me to think differently about it. I can only assume that. I don't know, because I don't. Others are.
I heard this quote the other day that I want to share, because I feel like in this moment it makes sense to me where you're coming from, especially from your age and being married yourself. It was some show or movie, I can't remember what it was, but she basically said that, like, when you're a child, quote unquote, whatever age that may be, but you're kind of seeing yourself as a child, you see your parent as a mother or a father. But then when you become an adult, you see them as a man and a woman. Instead of seeing them as this parent on a pedestal, you now start to relate to them on a different level. And so I'm glad you said that, because I think that is a huge flag in the ground about why you handled it the way you did, is because of your age. You were married, your maturity level. Like your brother, you said he was what, 17, 19?
he turned 19 right after dad passed. So his very first hospitalization, he would have been 17.
So
Yeah.
he's still very much in the child aspect. Even if he wouldn't have admitted that at the time,
Mhm.
like that season that he's in is somebody needs to take care of me. Whereas you're like, I see this in a different light
Mhm.
completely. So I do. I'm glad you said it like that because that definitely lands for me on a different level.
Yeah. It looking back on all of it, it's like a whirlwind. I feel like it was like the fastest year of my life, really, because he was released from the hospital in like January of 2020.
Mm,
My little brother goes on to graduate, gets a golf scholarship, decides to stay close. So he's close to dad. If anything happens, we get to watch him as a family. And that was still in the middle of COVID,
mm-hmm.
right? So, like, we're all, I mean, COVID itself is trauma
Shit
for
show.
for
Yeah.
all of us.
Mm-hmm.
Um, but he's living his dream, playing golf. But like you can have spectators because we are all 6 feet apart,
You're
right? So it's
outside.
okay. We're
It's not
outside.
real
Yeah,
outside.
COVID picks where it wants
Yeah, it
to
doesn't
infect
happen
people.
outside. Yeah.
Like when you walk past somebody in a restaurant with a mask on, but then when you take the mask off, that's all of
It
that was so
disappears.
weird. Yeah,
Yeah.
poof, gone. Um, so yeah, I don't even remember where I was going. I've kind of gotten off on that, but he was in such a vulnerable part of his
Yeah, his
life,
season. Yeah.
and I was vulnerable in the sense that like my spouse was gone, but I think all military spouses can tell you like for the most part, most of us are more used to them being gone than being there. And
Mm-hmm.
so you kind of turn yourself on to autopilot as we were talking about earlier and you just get shit done. Like
Mm-hmm.
it's you.
Checking the
There's
boxes.
nobody else to help you, it's
Yeah.
you, and most
Mm-hmm.
of us don't live near family. We
Mm-hmm.
have other military spouses, but they're going through their own stuff. And that community, like the military spouse community, is unlike anything that
Mm-hmm.
you'll ever experience. It's a friendship and a love and a just family. Like they
Yeah.
truly do become family. I have friends that I met, whether it be because they lived near me or because they were deployed with my husband or they were in his platoon or his troop or whatever. I have made lifelong friends because of it.
Mm-hmm.
So there's so much good comes out of it. But yeah, you kind of turn into this person who just check the box. Like I know there's nobody here to help me, so I've got to get A, B, C, D all the way through the alphabet done today,
Mm-hmm.
and it's me or it doesn't get done. Um, so I had kind of turned into this person who is, I'll do it.
The get shit done,
Yeah, the
girl.
get shit done, and I'm still that way.
Yeah.
I'm
I
still
know
very
you are.
much that
Yeah.
way. And it's okay. I
Mm-hmm.
like it's not my favorite thing about myself because I do wish I would slow down at times, but um I see those reels on Instagram all the time, which I don't use TikTok because I'm
Because
over
we're grown.
30. Because I am over 30.
Because we don't
Um,
understand it. Okay. Yeah. But
no,
yeah.
I have some of my very best friends have TikToks and I do giggle. I
Same.
really do giggle. They are so
They
funny.
are.
But when
Instagram's my jam,
yeah,
though. Yeah.
when Matt was in the military, we weren't allowed to have TikTok because China
Mm,
owns it, right?
yeah.
So like I also fresh out of college worked for the DIA. I had an internship, so I did a
Mm-hmm.
lot with like data entry, and you would not
Mm,
believe the photos that float around on the web.
mm.
It would alter your
Oh, I'm sure.
chemical, like the chemicals in your brain. It was wild. So I don't do any of that, any of it. I don't snap. I don't tweet. I do have a Twitter or an X, whatever we're calling it now, just because I love to like read other people's stuff.
Yeah.
I'm very much a browser.
Stalkers. Yeah, same.
Very much a browser, but never a poster. And if I do ever post, it's gonna be big because like I've been I've been saving up.
You
I will
better
put it out
hold
there. Yeah,
on.
everybody
Yeah.
hold on to your britches. So
You,
yeah, couldn't have it. And but there's those reels, right? Like
yeah.
God, I mean, we've spent 3 minutes talking about this. Those reels where the woman's like, I get mad that my family won't help me clean, but if they do help me, they're not going to do it
Yeah.
right.
And then I'm
I'm
pissed
that
off.
person,
Yeah.
and I'm like, I have to just accept that. Like that's me.
It is who we are. Yeah. Same.
And
It's like a control thing. So for me, I don't have OCD. I have OCD tendencies and I am definitely ADD, but I control is like the ultimate for me. And I'm not special. Like, I feel like so many women are like that.
Mm-hmm.
And maybe it's the trauma response, maybe it's just who we are, who it doesn't matter, right? It is just the way I am. But if I lose control of the situation in whatever capacity, it's situational. I'm not like this about everything, but I spiral on a
Mm-hmm.
level I cannot fully articulate. And so it's like if I can just keep my hands on top of whatever it is. Like when Sailor was a baby, I wanted all this help, but if you bathed her the wrong way or dressed her in the wrong even
Mm-hmm.
now, Colby like will help her get dressed or help her pick out stuff, and I'm like that okay.
Mm-hmm.
I'm not gonna say anything. I'm gonna release the control of this, but like little things like that. It was survival for me to hold on to control, but it also spiraled when I was a teenager of like eating disorders and such. Like it's been in different facets my entire life, but it helps something. I'm not sure exactly what.
Yeah, control is a big one for me. I do think it has to be some type of response to something
It
because
has
I
to
have
be.
always felt like I lacked control,
Mhm.
right? Whether it was my mom deploying, my parents divorced at a young age. I do not fault either of them.
Sure.
Growing up, you learn that sometimes things just don't
Mhm.
work out.
Sometimes they're not meant
And
to
you
be.
don't, and what I appreciate about them so much is that they stayed friends and we did everything together as a full family. There was never, lines in the sand drawn or you choose this or you choose that. And so, when I talk about control and like it being a trauma response, I don't mean that I came from
Sure.
something that was,
Same.
but like losing my dad, losing my brother, losing whomever it's been in my life. I just have this over, like you talked about earlier, like you feel like everybody's going to die.
Mhm.
It's the God's honest truth. And there was one point where I grew up. I don't even know if this number is correct, but I feel like it is. I think by the time I graduated that there were like 15 funerals of teenagers that I had been to by the time I
Wow.
graduated high school. I graduated with 40 kids, and I mean, someone can fact check me. I don't remember. I wish the moderators were here, but they're not. I lost my best friend at 19, and then I lost two more classmates, again, out of 40 people, two more classmates within like 6 months. So we lost three out of 40 in, I mean, I'm trying to do the math here. I mean, like within 6 or 7 months of each other. It was wild. And we were so close. And so from the
Oh
very
my god.
beginning of like adulthood, all I knew was when my phone rings, it's gonna be bad
Mm.
news. That's another trauma response. I cannot let my phone die because I'm so
Mm.
convinced that if my phone dies, I'm gonna miss a phone call. And
Wow.
that's gonna be the next news, the next person who's gone or whatever it may be. My thought
Mhm.
always is that it's bad news. Like when my phone rings, I am on
Mhm.
alert.
Mhm.
Um, and it's gotten better over time, but for the longest time, it was just hearing the phone call would put me into fight or flight. Like my heart would start
I'm
racing.
sure.
I would get so sick to my stomach. Um, it was it's odd. I don't think I've ever even told you about the friends.
I
I don't
didn't
think
know
I
about
told you
that.
about that because I think I bury all of that so deep in like that it's just another thing or that people go through that. But I don't think it's as common as we all are used to from where I'm from because it quite literally was every month some kid was passing away.
Can I ask, like,
Yes.
how the majority of these people
Yeah,
were
yeah.
dying? Was it
So,
pre
car accidents
Okay.
are a large one. There were some freak accidents, like whether it be ATV accidents. I know that we had like some blood clots that turned into embolisms. We've had um, people like not car surfing, but in that one maybe I can't speak on that now. But as a high schooler, we didn't think anything of it. Like just
Yeah, you're
sitting on the back of a
invincible,
truck
yeah.
or something simple like that. But yeah, car accidents. There were some overdoses. I think that that's unfortunate and just really not the the best thing to like touch on, but that's true.
It's
That's
the
life.
reality.
That
Yeah.
is life.
Same for when I was in high school,
Yeah,
yeah.
so that was kind of a thing, but yeah, we had way too much
That's
death.
a lot
That's a
of
lot of kids. Like
people.
I will try to get you the list cuz it's a lot. But you get those memories on your Facebook, right? And it's like 15 years ago today, this was your status.
Status.
Who am I?
Status.
The status. And it's like, rest in peace, blah, blah, blah. And I'm going to another funeral. And it's wild how many people passed. I mean, my friends will comment if they listen and see it and be like, that's true.
That's a lot of loss though, because not even touching on the high school loss, which is like formative years of losing people. You lost 4 people within 9 months. So your dad was the beginning of that.
Yeah, my dad was late January, and then I lost my grandmother. So my mom's mother, she was the mother of 6 girls. She raised all of them pretty much on her own. And I mean, she was amazing. She was like the kindest, most gentle soul on this planet, always positive, no matter what. We called her Granny in North Carolina, one word, because you can't you can't separate that, Granny in North Carolina.
Oh my God, I love that.
And she just did such a good job raising these girls on her own, with no money, and they're living in 1-bedroom houses with 1 bathroom, and it's 7 girls share, all of these stories, right? Walked uphill in the snow,
Yeah.
whatever.
5 miles.
But these are
day.
true stories. Like this is truly what my mom and her siblings grew up with. And my grandmother was growing up with them. She was young, and they all grew up together. And so we lost her, unfortunately, to COVID. And then my mother's husband, so my stepdad's mom, passed right after her. And then we lost my brother in November of 2021. So this is all, like 9 months of each between that time frame. It's a lot of loss. I went up to visit my mom and help her plan my grandmother's funeral. And I was, 8 months off of planning my dad's. So, and let me just tell you that like funerals are the oddest thing to me in the sense that it is such a money-making thing. I was like, I hate to say these words, but we have a funeral director who we've used for our last 4 family members who have passed. And I think of him as family now because I called him. One of my other grandmother passed away, unfortunately, earlier this year, and I had him pick her up because he's the person who I trust. And when you get to that point and that vulnerability and you're expecting professionalism across the board, death is a moneymaker. I don't think people talk about that enough, but it is. It's a moneymaker.
Well, you're so vulnerable, and they take advantage of it.
Yes. Do you want the doves? Do you want a bagpiper? Which my dad would have thought a bagpiper was hilarious. We did joke that like some man coming out from behind the trees playing like Stairway to Heaven would have been hilarious.
Top notch, yeah.
And I did go through that process trying to find a man to do it. But he was going to make me pay for his flight, which I would have paid for everything. But in hindsight, it was just a lot. It would have been a lot. But it would have been very funny. And that's one of the things that I carry from my dad. My dad had an excellent sense of humor. So yeah, but yeah, that money making thing, you go into trying to help somebody else. My mom's sitting there just thinking like, I don't even know what the right calls are to make here, right?
One foot in front of the other. Yeah.
Yeah. And she's one of 6 girls, and they're all trying to get up there, and they all obviously want to be involved and want to help. And it's a lot. Like grieving the loss in a family is a lot. So yeah, I kind of went between multiple families and then back to the original grief family when we lost my brother. And my brother struggled with addiction a lot in his life. There at the time when he passed, he had come back to us after losing my dad because he felt so guilty about not being there for dad. And
this is okay. We have to say something because it's the elephant in the room. Like there are lawnmowers outside of this window right now, and so we're both like non-violent, like non-verbally, like, is this okay? Do we keep going?
Yeah, very large.
Hopefully they're not picking up, but we're gonna keep going.
Yeah. So yeah, he had all that, guilt, which we talked about earlier, all the guilt about not getting back in time. And he had a pretty big scare with his health
Mm.
and had gotten clean. And so he came home, and it was kind of that like, we needed it. You know, we
Mhm.
needed to see him well and thriving. We needed to see him being his, you know, as close to his old self as possible.
Mhm.
Our hearts really needed that. And then he ended up passing of a heart infection caused, you know,
Mhm.
from drug use. And people don't realize like you can be as clean as you want to be, but I think it's like myocarditis or something
Mhm.
like that. You know, it can come back. And if it's not treated completely and if it's still lingering in your bloodstream, whatever. Um, so that was a rough loss. And we kind of went through this like, why do we keep being given everyone back for them to take them away
Wow.
again? You know,
Yeah.
like dad survived this intense sickness that he never should have made it out. I mean, the trach thing, that is a whole nother level of sick.
Mhm.
And then, you know, Will makes it out of his initial myocarditis thing and had to have his lungs failed and, you know, all of this stuff. And he makes it out and he gets to come home only to, to pass, you know, it just felt very like we were, you know, that little man in what is the commercial where it's like the fisherman, he's got the dollar on the string
Dangling
and
it in
he's
front
like,
of
gotta be
you.
quicker than that.
But also
That's what it felt
the
like.
the opposite side of that is like you had almost a chance for closure.
Yeah, and that is what my stepmom said. You know, she worked really hard on trying to find her peace with
Mhm.
everything. She, you know, did the therapy and still is doing therapy, and she is amazing for that. She works really hard at just trying to live with and live within whatever space we're in right now, which for all of us is still kind of confusion, but
Mhm.
like this is the path forward. I hate that term new normal, you know, like this
Mhm.
is your new normal. There's nothing about this that's normal,
Yeah.
but this is just our new. Um, but that's what she said. She was like, you know, it has to be that we're given these extra chances or this extra time because we deserve that extra time, not
It's
because
unfinished. Yeah.
yeah, something is dangling and then it's snatched.
Mhm.
Um, and that's the difference between people who are trying to better every situation, which that is definitely where she is right now. And I'm sure if she were here, she would credit that to her doing the work and getting in with her therapist and learning new techniques and new ways to kind of reprogram your mind. And then she comes back and she shares those goodies with me, and then we get to kind of both boast in in
Yeah.
the moment. But you know, I would be lying or remiss if I didn't say that that was definitely how it felt in the moment. Like it
Yeah.
it it felt like quite the gut punch.
Cruel.
We're
Yeah.
doing this again.
Yeah.
Um, so yeah, those were my four losses within 9 months. And I don't mean to like briefly touch over my grandmother or step grandma sounds like such a weird term, but her name was Dolores. She was a lovely woman. She
Mm.
was super kind and very funny and a really good bowler, which matters to her. And so it matters
It
to
matters
me.
to everyone. It
Yeah.
should.
And she, you know, gave birth to my father or my stepfather, who is a really sweet man, and his daughter, who is now my sister, who I love with
Mhm.
every fiber of my being. And so, you know, she is important to me because of what she's provided me
Yeah.
in my life through her kids and through her grandchildren and all of that. So it was a rough 9 months. I feel like I've said that probably 300 times since we've been in here. You can edit all of those
I
out.
won't.
Great.
I won't take them out.
Y'all can start a little tally down at the bottom of how
I
many
do want
times
to
she
go back
says
to what
rough.
you were saying about like the perspective shift
Mm-hmm.
from like what your stepmother was able to like come to in therapy of like seeing it as an opportunity and closure versus like cruel and
Mm-hmm.
dangling this opportunity and why would you do this? And I feel like for me it is perspective, right? And it is shifting that. And like one of the things I had to do with Sailor's epilepsy was very similar to that. Like I could stay in this hole of like, why me? Why us? Why her? Why would you do this to us? But I had, and I would have died there, right? Like if I did not come out of that. And I think that's true because the stuff with Sailor is very, very reminiscent of grief.
Mm-hmm.
And there's so many different variations of grief. It's not just someone dying, it's like the end of something. Even if it's just the end of what you thought it was going to look like,
Mm-hmm.
there's grief that comes into that. And so for me, it was grieving what I thought her childhood would look like without this and all of those things, right? But for me, it was like, if I stay here, I will do nothing but hurt myself and the people around me because this isn't healthy. And I would assume it's probably very similar to your stepmom, where it was like, I have to make sense of this one way or the other, right? Whether
Mm-hmm.
you call it a new normal or whatever you call it, it's like, what can I learn from this? What can I take from this in a positive way? And I do feel like people who have had experience with grief, whether it's death or just the loss of something specific, it's like a special knowledge that I feel like the earlier you learn it in some ways, the better. And like even me feeling like people are going to die and you and I have very different sides of that spectrum. Like
Mm-hmm.
I don't feel that way when my phone rings. It's I don't have that kind of response. And so I would think a happy medium between the two of us would be a great place. But for me, I almost feel like it's a positive thing that I have the wherewithal to not get too caught up in this could change tomorrow. And in some ways, I think that that's helpful for me. Like, and really, it's Colby. Like in my mind, I feel like Colby is going to die, leave. He's not going to be here to lean on. And in some ways, that makes me strive to be more independent because I'm not a military spouse. Like yes, he traveled for work, but that was never the case for me. And it was like having to come back to how can I take care of myself when he's not here? Because in my mind, that's how it's going to end up, right? And I think women just live longer than men for the most part, but you know what I mean? So it's like somewhere in between that is like a happy medium. But I don't think it's a negative thing. I think it can be really helpful once you've worked past it. I want to kind of piggyback off this about us both having only children because I'm curious with your experience with your siblings and the loss. Do you feel like that played into your decision to have only one child?
Actually, it's kind of the opposite for me. It's really the only time that I've regretted only
Mm-hmm.
having one kid.
Mm.
Um, I'm from, as I kind of mentioned earlier and briefly talked about, I have a very confusing aspect when it comes to my family. I don't have any full siblings.
Mhm.
So on my mom's side, I have a half sister.
Same.
She's 7 years older than me. She's about to
Mhm.
turn 40. So, and she's just, one of the lights of my life. She has been such a good supporter for me and somebody who has, even through everything with my dad, she was my dad's stepdaughter
Mhm.
for a long time and she loved him.
Mm.
Um, and then on my dad's side, or on my mom's side, I also have my stepsister, who I
Mhm.
mentioned earlier, who has been just the greatest addition to our girls only family. And somehow I still ended up the baby. So on my mom's side, I am the youngest of three girls.
Okay.
And then on my dad's side, I am the oldest and the only girl. So, you talk about those different aspects of, being the only child or the oldest child or whatever. Like I'm all of them into one.
Yeah.
So I have a stepbrother, Will, who passed in 2021. And then I have my younger brother, who is 22 now.
Mhm.
So I'm 11 years older than him. Um, so in those moments where I'm like, did I make the right decision here? Because I mean, I'm looking at my watch like it matters, but she's 6.
Yeah.
She'll be 7 in January. And she just asked me last night for Christmas, she wants a baby sister. And I'm like, ooh,
Mm.
that's, you know, it's not,
Wow.
it's not going to happen, but she's still asking for it. And she is such a good, like, mama. Like,
Yeah.
she loves kids.
She loves babies.
She loves babies. She's so good with them.
Mhm.
She would be the perfect big sister. And I feel like I'm wasting those talents. But at the same time,
Yeah.
I that is the only time I've regretted it, but I've never doubted my decision, if that
Mm.
makes sense. Like I have regrets that she will not have a sibling. I'm very close with my cousins. I have best friends who I'm very close with and their kids grow up with her. So I'm hoping that like that family aspect, it extends past siblings,
Yeah.
right? It extends to every person who you need to be there for you. Um, but I mentally just And I think that yours was Sailor and her diagnosis and trying to work your life around, how do I present my child with all the best opportunities while still being her biggest advocate, while not taking anything from what she's doing, but all of these things, right? Like parenthood is hard
Yeah.
enough before you add in some extra layer of concern or all of those things. So I knew within probably 6 weeks that I was never going to have a kid again. I know we all joke about when you're laying there and you're giving birth,
Mhm.
right? And I will not go into detail, but I knew in that
Yeah.
room, I was like, anybody who does this more than once, and no offense to anybody, this was not,
Yeah.
it was just meant to be like, make me feel better in that moment.
Mhm.
How do you do this more than once,
Mhm.
right? Like, oh you are never more vulnerable,
Mhm.
more exposed.
Yeah.
They want to send everybody in there like, this guy's been training for 3 weeks. Can he come in here? I don't care. I don't care.
It's like a free for all.
Yeah. She's like, do you want this mirror down here? No, I don't. Like, and every mom's different, right? There's some
Yeah.
women who are going to come here and sit in your chair and they're going to be like, I watched everything and it was
I
beautiful
did. I watched everything.
and it
I'm not
was
gonna say it's beautiful,
amazing.
but
And well, there's people who
that's fair.
it's beautiful for
Mhm.
them. And
Mhm.
that is
Yeah.
to each their own. I want people to love it that much
Mhm.
because somebody bursts your child's best friend, somebody bursts your child's spouse, like
Yeah.
you want people who want to better this world and all those things. But for me, that wasn't it. And
Yeah.
that's just not, yeah, there's times where I'm like, did I make the right decision? And then I'm constantly reminded, yeah, I
Colby and
did.
I just talked about this the other day. And it was kind of just like a touchback, like, how are you feeling about this? Do you ever have regrets? And I have, and I don't know that I've actually talked about it on here, but Colby and I, we had plans to have another child.
Hmm.
We were actually planning to start trying when Sailor was 3, and she was diagnosed with epilepsy 2.5. So, right, well, like 3 months before her third birthday. And I didn't make the decision right away because it was in 2020. And so it took us a really long time to understand her diagnosis and the ins and outs of it. And I mean, we're still figuring it out, right? Um, but I mean, obviously everything got put on hold. And then probably a year later, I was like, I can't do this again. And it was more for me of like, I can't fully be there for her and another child because I have no idea what this future looks like. And I'm not even going to pretend like I have the capacity to split my attention.
Hmm.
And so it was very driven by the fact, and I don't want her to ever hear me say that and think that like she missed out, because I've never regretted that decision. She's also never asked for a sibling. She is 7. She has never. She calls our dog and our cat her brother and sister. She talks about other people being her sister or brother, but she's never asked for a baby, which I find that really interesting. She also does not like sharing my attention with anyone, so that was kind of a ringer that she was meant to be an only child. But it is one of the reasons I wanted us to talk about it is because it's one of those things that other people don't typically understand. My family was really difficult to wrap their head around, me not having another child and choosing to not have another child. Saying things, and it wasn't just them, it was friends too, like, you should give her a sibling, she deserves a sibling, all this kind of stuff that, anyone listening to this, e- everyone has input or ideas about what your family should look like. And for me, it was like, yeah, sure, siblings could be great. She might hate them, right? It could be toxic for her. There's no guarantee that you're going to get along with your siblings. Like, I feel really blessed. Actually, when you said I don't have any full blooded siblings either, which I've never even thought about it like that. All of my sisters are half sisters. Um, but there's no guarantee that you're going to get along with all of them or that it's going to be this great, beautiful relationship. And the funny thing is, and you'll get this too, like if I have another kid in the car with her and they're like bickering, I'm like, what is this? Like, I don't have to deal with this. This is crazy. Normally, our car rides are like peaceful and wild conversations, but no one's fighting. So there are things about it that are different. But I also think this is her world. And I also do this when I meet other people, adults who are only children. I ask them a bunch of questions like, did you love being an only child? Did you hate it? Like,
Mhm.
tell me your experience. Do you ever find yourself doing that?
My stepmom's an only child.
Okay.
Um, so she's always given me really good input. I think
That's
that
helpful.
her relationship with her parents was so different
Mm-hmm.
than, for instance, my mom, who's one
Mm-hmm.
of six, right?
Mm-hmm.
So like I again don't regret anything. I do hope that when it comes down to and you know what, my mother-in-law is not an only child. Her brother passed away from leukemia, and she is now going through making all the decisions for her parents as an only child because of forced situations, right?
Mm-hmm.
And I see the stress that it has put on her, and that is really the only time where I'm like, you know, this cannot be good. But that comes into us as the parents needing to make
Mm-hmm.
sure that we have everything set up so that our child doesn't have to go through these things. You know, whatever that insurance needs to be, whether it's long term care or, you know, I need to start saving now, getting your 401k built up. You know, all of these things, you need to make those
Mm-hmm.
decisions now because your child is going to have to do all of this for you and it's expensive.
Well, I want to say a side note to that because in my experience, even people who have siblings, it always usually ends up falling to one child that takes the burden of that. And the negative side to that is you then feel like you need to like weigh in other people's opinions.
Mm-hmm.
And so in some ways, if your parents have prepared well enough for you not to have the burden of like all their shit having to be dealt with,
Mm-hmm.
you get to make all the decisions and move on. Whereas, you know, people I know who their parents have died and they had to like try to get input. I don't want to piss anyone off because I have to make all these decisions. There's still always one person doing all of that. And so I don't just playing devil's advocate. I don't know that either is a better situation. I think it just is what it is. Um yeah. I
Yeah.
think too, you know, now that I'm listening to you, the way you grew up is very reminiscent of an only child. I grew up very reminiscent of an only child because all my siblings were grown. Colby was the oldest, and all his siblings were really young. And so, kind of an only child. And maybe that plays into it a little bit too. I don't know. But none of us, I don't think, had siblings like close in age that
Mm-hmm.
we grew up our whole lives with. It's just interesting. It's
Yeah,
interesting
I
when you
think
start looking at it.
we're all kind of normal, right?
We're
I
totally normal.
think we look back. I do look back and think like, I mean, I was like a only child part time. You know what I
Mm-hmm.
mean? Like
Mm-hmm.
when I'm with my mom, my sister was in college, or you know, was with her dad, or when I'm with my dad, you know, I did have two brothers who were there all the
Mm-hmm.
time. So yeah, I grew up like a part time only child,
Yeah.
which may have been like the best of both worlds where like
Yeah.
I could have my siblings when I needed them and then could live in silence when
Mm-hmm.
I didn't. I also was like a huge sports kid. I played travel ball and all the things. So
Yeah.
I was never truly alone. Like, you know, I had friends with me quite
Mm-hmm.
literally all the time, which I think is why I'm such an advocate now for like maintaining those friendships. I
Mm-hmm.
think that um, having adult friends is so important, like
Yeah.
outside of your spouse. Um, because I spent so much time building these relationships with people as a kid, that's where I find like the best parts of myself is through
Yeah.
these other people who've been with me or seen me through times. You know, I have best friends who were there with me every step of my dad's passing
Yeah.
and had a one of my best friends since childhood lost her dad right after I lost my dad. I mean, like with it was like a
Wow.
month
Wow.
separation and I was back in the same building at the same graveyard that my dad was
Mm-hmm.
buried. I mean, it was and I hadn't been back. I don't you know, I don't think I think about it enough, but that was one of my things where I was like, I can't go here right now.
Mm-hmm.
You know, I can't sit here right now.
Mm-hmm.
Um, I hope that my daughter has those things. I think
Mm-hmm.
that we're kind of talking about aging here, right? Like at least allowing our kids to grow up here and then whatever their next step is their next step. Um, but like our kids will be here together
Mm-hmm.
for the next we have 12 years left with
Mm-hmm.
them here, maybe,
Mm-hmm.
if that. Um, and they'll be neighbors for 12 more years. And
Man,
there's, we've kind of fell into this pocket here where I can't even imagine one of these families leaving right now.
I know.
It
Our
kind of,
little neighborhood is such a sweet spot.
it, it gives me anxiety to think about. Like,
Mm-hmm.
I remember pulling into the neighborhood and seeing a for sale sign in somebody's yard and being like, ooh,
Who?
who?
Who is it? If we
Why?
did not give permission.
Yeah, you did not ask.
Yeah.
Um, but then we're that way about the people who move in too. We're like,
Mm-hmm.
wait, who is
I
this?
know.
They're joining our
I
little
know.
crew
We need
here.
like a yearbook where
We
we can like keep up with everybody.
we do, and a questionnaire. We joke that we should like send a questionnaire
Like a
out with
profile,
every
make it,
yeah,
yeah.
with every applicant so that we can make sure that
Well, going to like the neighborhood conversation, I do think that when you have only children, creating community around your kids is really important because if you have siblings or multiple kids in the family, they can play and interact and whatever. And when you have an only child, it's really difficult to not be the playmate, right?
mhm.
And you have to create some separation where you have to be creative
Yeah.
or imagination or whatever. But when we moved to this neighborhood, well, really just when kids started moving to this neighborhood, because there weren't a ton of kids when we first moved here. Um, it was a game changer for us because it was that very leave it to beaver, like kids playing in the yard and coming over and have play dates and things like that. And I do feel like people with only children like really kind of connect a lot faster because it's like we get it on a different level and we're trying to entertain our kids, but also like give them this social environment at the same time. But the message I want to convey here, like for anyone listening who is feeling pressured to have more kids because they think that that's what their family is supposed to look like or it's what they were told to do, like you don't have to do that. Like your family doesn't have to look this cookie cutter way. And also check with yourself before you're letting other people's opinions weigh on you because had I not been in a stronger place, I would have had another child just because my mom told me I should.
Yeah. Or you make such pretty babies. Why would you stop? And I'm like,
But here's the thing
yeah.
too, like I never, and I don't think you did either. I never told someone that like I wasn't trying or that I wasn't having difficulty conceiving. That's a whole nother conversation. But like don't ask people when they're gonna have kids or when they're gonna have a second kid because secondary infertility is a real thing. Um, and it's just like leave women alone. Like guys never get asked that, but women do. And it's like you may feel complete. And I remember, and I say this, I've said this before. When I literally woke up one morning and was like, I have to have a child. Colby and I had been together for 7 years. We had kind of just kicked the can down the road. We're not ready. We're not ready. And I literally just woke up one day and was like, "Uh, this human is coming is kind of what it felt like I have to have this baby. I'm going to do whatever I can. Like I'm putting all my ducks in a row and Colby was totally caught off guard because it was like one day we weren't ready and like the next morning I was ready. And I also said after we had Sailor, like I would wait for that feeling to come back before I ever had another one because it was so divine timing. Like I was meant to have her. And I wasn't going to have another one just to give her a sibling. And that's kind of what it fell into was like, okay, well, we said I would have fallen prey to that had I not had all of these other things going on that influenced me. And I just feel like we should all listen to that intuition a little bit more. If you really feel called to have more kids, then yes, absolutely follow that inclination. But if you're just trying to create this idea of family that you thought you were supposed to do, check yourself. Like really evaluate that. Wouldn't you say? That's kind of
Yeah. I don't, yeah, the outside like influences, the comments, the questions. Yeah, I don't get them as much anymore, and maybe it's because I'm a very blunt
I say
person.
one and done. When I say
Yeah,
I only have
when
one child,
somebody's like, "Oh, you only have one, is she gonna have a sibling or are you gonna have more?" And I'm like, "Nope, she's enough."
yeah,
Or, and I know it's not funny and somebody will probably say something, but I do tell people all the time, she has enough personalities for me. Like
yeah.
one kid, multiple personalities. And I think that's just the life of a 6, 7 year old girl.
Mm-hmm.
One second we're upset because our shorts are too tight. The next second, she's Madonna.
Mhm.
The next she's like I get 6 different kids a
It's whiplash,
day.
yeah.
Yeah. And then I've got my friends' children who I love almost as much as my own kid because I
Mhm.
get to watch them grow and
Yeah.
get like watching Sailor when we moved here, you were the very first person who invited us over for Merritt to play with.
Mm.
And it meant so much to me because I had kind of left that military lifestyle.
Mhm.
I'm coming to Auburn, have not lived here since I was in college. We
Yeah.
knew we wanted to be here. It was divine intervention that we ended up here in this neighborhood because it has been everything that I could have ever imagined or wanted
Mhm.
for myself and for my family. It's but that's the only child thing, right? Like
Mhm.
you saw an opportunity for your daughter to make somebody else feel welcomed,
Mhm.
and she was an only kid
To
too,
have a buddy,
and to have
yeah.
a buddy, and they were inseparable for the longest time.
Like siblings, like they would argue like siblings,
Yes.
and then they were in the same kindergarten class.
Yes.
Oh my
And
gosh.
they were so excited about it. And I think we talked about it as parents. We were like, this could go one of
Yeah,
two
we're gonna have to
ways.
wait and see
They're
what
going to
happens.
either want to be together all the time or they're going to be like, I have seen enough of you.
Yeah.
And that's what kind of happened for a little bit. They got to that point where they saw each other every single
Yeah.
day and everything was fine, but they just were like,
Well, it's like siblings again, and we even joke about this whenever they play. We'll check in, like, are they still getting along?
yeah.
Is everything still
Yeah.
cool? Because they do start to bicker, like, but that's the nature of like you're not used to someone in your
Mhm.
space, and all of a sudden someone's there. Um, yeah, yeah, I agree, definitely.
Yeah, it's been so being that, like we've said 100 times in this podcast thus far, being that advocate for your kid of like
Mm-hmm.
being able to provide that friendship or facilitate it, because you can't make your kid get along with somebody else, but you can
Mm-hmm.
facilitate how to make friends.
Yeah,
And that's a life skill that they're going
100%.
to need,
Mm-hmm.
especially as an only kid. They're going to need the
Conflict
ability,
resolution.
yes,
Yeah,
all of it. They're going to need, and all of those skills are going to transfer to every single aspect of their life,
yeah.
whether it's in junior high with bullies or,
Mm-hmm.
high school with some debate team, whatever. Like
Yeah,
all of those skills are going to come into play for them for the entirety of their lives.
yeah.
And I am trying so hard to teach her while also letting her learn on her
Mm-hmm.
own. That's a
That's
as I
just
said,
parenting. Yeah.
parenthood is so hard. I've seen the meme all the time where it's like it's the worst hood you can be in. And it's like it's the truth
Yeah.
though. Like
Yeah.
you are going through it. We all are. Every single parent is going through it, whether
Well,
you
none
have
of us know what we're
one.
doing either. Like with and each child, like you can have 5 kids and still not really know what you're doing because all the
Yes.
kids are so vastly different. But yeah, you're growing up with your kids.
Yeah, I was gonna say there's that thing. It's like you got to go easy on your parents because this is their first time doing this too, right? This is
Mhm.
their first life. We're
Mhm.
all living our first life, and
Mhm.
um, we kind of touched on it earlier about when your parents go from being mom and
Yeah.
dad to being a man and a woman, and like
Mhm.
learning things about your parents and seeing them in different lights and like their struggles and their successes and all of those things. I think that going through that with my parents has made me want to be the best version of myself for my
Mhm.
daughter and for myself obviously, but for her because I'm the one who she's going to look up to.
Mhm.
I don't know if this is how it is in your family, and Matthew may listen to this and cringe, but it's the truth. If I'm in that house, Matthew's invisible.
Mm.
Mommy, every sentence starts mama, mama.
Mhm.
We joke that
Yeah.
she cannot start a sentence without mama.
Yeah.
And I will be on the toilet. She's going to
Mhm.
come find me,
Mhm.
and Matt will be like, I'm right here.
Yeah.
I can help you. I don't know what that is about. And it may be daughters. I don't know. It could be a girl thing. Some of our boy moms will have to
No.
pipe in and let us know
Yeah.
if that's how it goes for them. But for me, it's mama or bust,
Mhm.
and while I love that and I appreciate it, and some
Mhm.
inkling inside of me is like,
Love being
yeah,
needed.
I
Yeah.
love that she needs me.
Mhm.
At the same time,
It's heavy.
that gets to be a lot
Yeah.
as a parent, as a mom,
Mhm.
especially. You can't turn off.
Mhm.
That's You can't even sit on the toilet. I joke that there's a light that must go off in the house because it's the dog, it's her, it's if I sometimes I'll jokingly like pretend like I pause and like sit down and
Trying to
stand up
trick
really
somebody.
fast
Yeah.
because someone's going to call my name as
Mm-hmm.
soon as I sit down, or at my desk, or I don't know why I say the toilet, but that's where it happens the most.
It's real life.
It's
Well, I had
literally.
a friend that made this statement, and the older I get, the more I'm like, oh my God, she was spot on. She said the mom owns the first 11 years of all kids, and then the dad owns like the next 10, 11 years, because it's those pivotal first 11 years, and maybe it's like give or take a couple of years. It's like mom is your safe place. Mom is your
Mhm.
nurturer, and that's what you need at that age. And then you get a little bit older and you need like real talk, black and white, like different things than what you needed the first couple of years. And I find that to be true. I mean, the same thing goes with Sailor. I mean, it is definitely all me, but I do see where certain conversations will be more poignant with Colby later when she's older, when she doesn't like me as much as she likes me right now. Like, she's not going to like me forever. Like, we're
Mhm.
going to get, and I already see like little moments of that where Colby's like, watch out, because this is going to be sticky when she's a
Mhm.
teenager, like
Yeah.
things like that. Right.
Yeah.
So I totally get that. All right, so let's, because we could just keep talking honestly forever and ever, but I want to circle into our hype list so we
Okay.
have like a clean way to close this out, and you'll probably come on and we'll talk about other stuff on a different episode. Um Hype list. I don't know if you remember what this is, but it's we called it the hype squad because of the hype list, which is an assignment I give clients. So just ways to like brag about yourself, be full of yourself, the things you've
Yeah.
accomplished and achieved. So share with me something that you want to brag about that you've achieved, and or an obstacle that you've overcome.
Ew. Well, I mean, all we've talked about this episode, it feels like, is things that have been sad, like a phoenix I have rose from the ashes.
Yeah.
Um, one thing we didn't talk about, I am a sales manager for a really large woman-owned
Woo
business, which
woo.
we're all about the ladies. I work in branding and promo, which is fun. And I think so it kind of this is both. It's like an obstacle and something to brag about. I left a career and went and took a risk, right? I went and I joined this huge Fortune 500 company. I could climb the ladder. I was doing really well, but every day I woke up, and even on my short commute, I call it a commute from my bedroom to my office, right? Because that was me commuting. Because I worked from home. I never felt fulfilled.
Mm-hmm.
Like I felt like I was missing something. I had great coworkers, had great bosses. I loved what I was doing. It was very important in the
Mm-hmm.
sense of like for national security and things like that. It was a good job,
Mm-hmm.
right? But I was not in a good place. I was dealing with lots of loss. I was dealing with a lot of heavy things. Had a grandmother who was having some serious health issues, and just so much was happening, and I just mentally I went in there one day and I was like, or not in, because I was in my office. I teleconferenced one day and I was like, look, I hate to do this because I am, as we've talked about, I'm an Enneagram 6. I'm not a quitter. That's
Mm-hmm.
not in me. It's not in my DNA. I am loyal to a fault. But for the first time, I chose myself.
Mm-hmm.
And I was like, I can't do this anymore. It's not that the job is stressful. It's that my life outside of this job is becoming too much for me. And I cannot do this. I just
Mm-hmm.
want to be happy every day. I want to look forward to what I'm doing. So I turned in my notice. I gave them like 6 weeks because that's the type of person I am. And went and kind of took some time and thought about it and went back to my
Mm-hmm.
old company. And and she had always told me, if you want to come back, I'll take you. Right. Like you have earned your spot here if you want to be here. And I did it and like had to go back and kind of admit that I was wrong. And I was proud of myself for that. But now we have this bustling company. We do, over $10 million a year in sales with amazing salespeople that I get to, work with and work for
Mm-hmm.
every day. The term sales manager sounds so like cliche, but that's just what the title is
Yeah.
for that. But they know that I am their confidant, I am their hype woman. I
Mm-hmm.
watch their sales and do all of that. And it has brought me so much joy and made me so happy and kind of brought back this light because I mean, we've been friends for a couple years now,
Mhm.
and you've kind of seen me through some times where you've been like, "Are you okay?" Because
Mhm.
you don't seem okay,
Mhm.
and I wasn't.
That
And
was a stressful job.
yeah, and I told you that though. I was very
Mhm.
forthcoming with it because I knew that I could tell you without you judging me or
Mhm.
I hate that. Well, just leave. Just it's not
Mhm.
that simple for
Mhm.
somebody like me. So that's my thing. Like I made the uncomfortable decision. I did it. I had to admit I was wrong to two companies, not one, but two,
Mm.
right? And now I'm in a job that I love, working with clients and friends. We did bracelets for you and they're
I bet
so
we have so much
cute
fun doing
and
branding
they're
things.
fun and it's so much less stressful because obviously I want you to get everything perfect. But it's just it's just fun. Like
Well, the
I love it.
relationships I'm sure you form with people that you work with is
Yes.
another level too, but I could totally see that. I think you talking about the word fulfillment, Colby talks about this a lot. Like success versus fulfillment are very, very different
They are.
things. And you don't know until you try it,
Mhm.
right? And I think the beautiful thing about your story is like the branding company basically said, like, go take your hiatus, like,
Yeah.
go try it. We'll be here when you're ready. Like,
Yeah.
and maybe not, that probably wasn't the intentions of what they were saying, but knowing you had a home to go back to, like, let
Mhm.
me go off and have this little sabbatical. Let me just try it. Knowing I can go back to this because you worked with them kind of here and there, even on your
Yeah,
hiatus.
I couldn't fully leave. It's like a family. You know, you kind of
Yeah.
and you want that in a company,
Hmm.
right? You want to work a place that makes you feel like you said fulfilled, but also like some people use this word. This word was brought up at my dad's funeral and I think it's only fitting that it comes back to this was being content.
Hmm.
And you know, a lot of entrepreneurs don't like to sit in being content because they want to keep going, but
Hmm.
there's so much to be said for somebody who is just
Yeah.
content. Like I don't need anything more and I don't want anything less. And I am perfectly happy with where I am
Hmm.
in this moment. And
Yeah.
that was I mean, they brought it up at his funeral in his eulogy. Like he was content. And the guy
Hmm.
said, and I don't want you to take that as
A bad
this
thing.
bad thing that we've all wrapped our mind about being content. He was content in the best way.
It's the beautiful thing.
It is. And I'm content.
I mean, I think some people use the term in different ways that aren't necessarily in an ideal
Mhm.
look. But for me, I resonate with that same thing, like
Yeah.
being content. I also think that your professional life, what you do as a job, your career, you spend so much of your time in that 8 hours a day, 40 hours a week, that your family and your personal life is very small in comparison.
Mhm.
You, if you can, you need to be happy and fulfilled in that moment, content, if you will, because all the other shit is going to blow up and ebb and flow, and you're going to have hard stuff in your personal life. That's a
Mhm.
given. If you can hold down the professional career part to be fulfilling or content the best you can, do it, right? Because you don't need to add more stress to your already stressful plate. Anyone listening to this, right?
Mhm.
Um, Girl, I could still keep going.
I know.
Okay.
We got lots.
Thank you for
Yeah.
coming and checking your bucket list and
Yes,
doing your first podcast.
I have dreamed of being on a podcast like since my very first podcast listen, which we didn't touch on this, but because I'm a true crime nut
Yeah,
for what I went to school for, um, I love a dang podcast, man. I
same.
don't know what it is. I can only pray that when I hear this back, I don't want to scratch my own
About your
eyeballs out for
voice.
my voice.
Oh my
Yes.
God, same.
There's some ladies and kudos to them because I know we are not about bashing people and that's not what I'm doing here because I am proud of any woman who puts herself out there and does something that makes her
Amen.
uncomfortable.
Mm-hmm.
But your voice is important
Yeah,
when you're
it's
listening
not
to
for
that person
everybody.
driving down. You know, I commute for work some days and I
Mm-hmm.
listen to certain podcasts. And I mean, their voices have to pull me in and
Mm-hmm.
not push me back.
I'll stop listening over just an audio. Like
Absolutely.
I
So
have
I
my
hope that
favorite
doesn't
voices.
happen.
Yeah. Well, if it does, we're gonna work past that.
Yeah, edit me and then I can come like with a British accent
Yeah,
next
yeah.
time
We'll do it.
or not work so hard on covering my southern accent and just letting her be the
Just let the
forerunner.
twang
Just let
out.
her
I love
out.
it. Morgan, I'm so glad you came.
Yes, thank
Thank
you
you
for
for getting
having me.
hyped with us. That's all. Thank
Okay,
you. Bye.
thanks.